All right, so trying to decide if I'm actually recording. It looks like I am. So,
Yes.
okay, good. There we go. So anyway, on this first slide, this has got my contact information. So my email is here. If you do Twitter, my Twitter handle, I have 2 Twitter accounts, but this one is the one tied to Technology in Motion. And then I have a Facebook page as well. Social media is a great way to keep up with what professional development opportunities are available. And so that is me. I went through level 1 kind of on my own, and then level 2 with a group of TIM specialists who were also kind of getting that level 2 certification, and then also did a boot camp kind of thing for trainer. I created this slide as a table of contents because the presentation is the same one for every day. So if you are a go-getter and you want to look ahead, go right ahead. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I can't say that I won't do some adjusting, because that's the beauty of Google Slides, is I can make some changes if I need to. But I thought by putting this here, you could just go to the table of contents, click day 2, and it would take you to where I think we're going to start on day 2, 3, 4, and 5. We may adjust that a little bit. I also put a link to the question slide. I mentioned that as we're going, I do have to keep up a certain pace so that we finish on time each day. And so if you have a question that you don't want to bring up in the chat, or you don't want to mention by unmuting your mic, you can drop it there. If everybody puts questions there that you want answered, it all goes to one place. It allows me to kind of look at those questions this afternoon and hopefully address those first thing tomorrow. And then as you'll see when we go on, I have a link to what I'm calling the test slide, which is links to where you need to go when you are ready to take the exam. And so hopefully this will be kind of one-stop shopping for you as we go through the week. So this is just my very crude slide regarding Zoom. So I know several of you have probably experienced some Zoom meetings or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams where you've done some of these webinars. And so I just did some screenshots. And so down here at the bottom, it's just some screenshots of the controls that you may see. Muting and unmuting your microphone, you can either do that there, or if you see a participants box, you can do that, and you can cut your video on and off. You can access the chat even when I'm sharing my screen. You'll just need to find that little chat button. And for some people, you may have to look at like a 3-dot menu to see that. And then some of you have already showed you are savvy and you know how to use the thumbs up or the applause on the reactions. And so that is always appreciated as a presenter, because we don't know if you are at your computer or like feeding your cat. So anytime you can engage with me as a presenter, that is awesome. And then there are other reactions. If you are in the participants box right here, there are other reactions like yes, no. And if you use any of these, it's helpful sometimes to click them again to remove them. So if you want to try out a reaction, now would be a good time to do that. So if you want to try any of these reactions, I'm just going to take a moment, stop sharing, and let's see. Can you figure out? Oh, I see we have somebody with an applause. I see a thumbs up. I'm going to give us a thumbs up. So there's that. So you've got lots of options of some reactions that you can give to the presenter. And so that is awesome. Thank you so much for testing that out for me. And so now I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and accessing my presentation. There we go. Boy, I look like a professional. That was just boom, boom. So let's see if the rest of it goes like that. This is a link to the presentation. So if you did not get that in the chat, this is it. Now, I use tinyurl.com as a shortener. It is not case sensitive. So, so basically, if you will look at the end, it's JSU GC for Google Certified Level 1. So that might be easier for you to, if you have to type it into something. But then also, I have been putting it in the chat box. So I'm just going to throw that in there one more time. That's got the presentation and the attendance link for today. Now, I did want to remind you, if you, I don't know if you're using two devices or if you kind of have this open in behind my screen, but I would encourage you to pin the tab. And that just means as we go through and we open other tools, because you will be doing certain tasks and you'll have to open your Google Drive or open Docs, you may want to pin this tab so that it kind of locks it in. And so I just put a little screenshot there. I encourage you to use Google Chrome. You are going to get the most functionality out of Google if you're using Chrome. And so that gives you the ability to pin that tab. So just because you didn't open the Zoom meeting in Chrome doesn't mean you got to close it out. You can actually open Chrome as a second browser. If you're thinking, I don't even have Chrome on my computer, it's okay too. You can do pretty much a lot of the same things in other browsers. You may see some difficulties. For example, I know that in Google Docs, I think you can't use voice typing in certain browsers. So anyway, full functionality is by using Chrome browser. So this is our attendance. Google calls it an activity tracker for Google trainers. This is the only day we'll use this particular document for attendance. I have a different attendance document for the other days. So if you're in the presentation, you can click here and go to it. If you are not, then you can look in the chat box. And I'm just going to go here. We have 17 people who have already put their responses into this attendance document, 18. So we're almost there to a full 20. And so basically it just asks you, you know, your school email address. Is this email a part of a G Suite domain? And so that means, is your district a Google district? And so we do have a few that are not Google districts. And so I'm excited that you're here just learning this. It may be that your school is considering going to it, or you are just going to use it personally for your classes. I've actually been working with a couple of homeschool and private school teachers who are going to be using their personal Gmail accounts to do classroom. And so they would be one of these examples. The email that you're going to use to take the Google certification exam, we'll talk about this as we finish out the week and we're talking about registering for the exam. You may want to use your school address, and if this changes after we've talked, then you know, we can go back and change it in on my end. But basically, we've advised people sometimes that if you have a personal Gmail account and you have an account with your school, you may want to take the test with your personal account. The reason is, if you happen to leave that school district, then you may want your certifications to also go with you. So for me, all of my certifications are under my personal Gmail account, although I have accounts under a G Suite domain. And Courtney may jump in on this. That is still the case, isn't it, Courtney, that for you to move your certifications, you need to use your personal one?
Yes, that's still the case.
So if you need to change to a personal account, you can. What's your comfort level using Google Apps? So I see we're kind of, if most people are extensively using these, we have a few that are isolated and occasional. Like I said in my email, and I have, this is the thing that we can't really be clear in sometimes in Powerschool, is that this really is for people who have some basic knowledge of Google. So I hope that you don't feel lost, because we will have to move at a pretty brisk pace. But feel free to put those questions in that question document and I'll try to answer those, or at least send you to an area in the Google Training Center or some tutorial videos that will help you feel confident in that particular tool. All right, so we have 19 responses here, so be sure that you do put your information there, and you can find that in the chat box or in the presentation. So did anybody have trouble getting the presentation? If you did, let me know in the chat or unmute your mic and let me know that. Yeah, that question was about if you want to change that Google email address from the one you put there on the attendance form. Yes, you can just let me know that. If you just want to shoot me an email and say, hey, here's the one I put in there. This is the one I'm actually going to use for my test. I can make that change. And this is just, I think, for Google Trainer records. All right, just quickly, my journey with this, that, man, this tells them old. In 2006, I was looking for a way to do a paperless research paper because I'm a former high school English teacher. And I tried Yahoo Briefcase. So if you even remember that, then you are like me. You've been around for a while in the education world. And I tried that, and it was so exciting to do a paperless research paper. And then I moved into a position of tech integration specialist, and I used Dropbox. Like, I thought that was so brilliant that I could share these large files with people. And I signed up for Google Drive. Now, I had been a Gmail user for a long time, but really hadn't used Google Drive, and it was fairly new. And so I fell in love. Everything is in Google Drive. My district, though, was not on board. They're actually a Microsoft district in St. Clair. And so I would just use my Google tools as much as I could. And I ended up with the job at JSU through Technology in Motion. And shout out to my wonderful boss, Eric Lee. His wife is in the Zoom, so I can give him a shout out. He had worked with me some as a Technology in Motion specialist. And when he moved up to his position, this position came open. I had the opportunity to interview for it. And I saw that so many districts were interested in the Google Suite format that I started learning everything I could. And I took the level 1, took the level 2, and then a little over a year ago, I did the trainer certification. And so with a lot of encouragement from people like Courtney and some of my other colleagues, I just took the leap and did it. Honestly, I'm not a great test taker, so I was a little intimidated by the process, but I will tell you, you can do it, and hopefully you'll leave here confident feeling like you can. So the different levels of certification, level 1 is what we're going through here. Level 2, you know, people ask what's the difference. Level 2 is just all of these tools deeper plus more, because if you know anything about Google, they're always changing, they're always improving, they're always adding new tools. And then the Certified Trainer Program gives you a look into the admin console and then gives you opportunities to train, which I'm doing anyway, and just to kind of spread the gospel of Google. So here is the slide I was talking about, the question slide. I am going to cover a lot of information. You can ask a question. I'll try to catch that in the chat. But if you really want to drop a question that I can look at for later, you can click here on this slide. It should, hopefully, if the link is working, take you to a Google form that will allow you to put that in there, and it'll take it to a spreadsheet so I can see all of the questions. So to talk about the exam itself, you must pass the exam with 80% or above. Now, if you wandered into this particular training going, wait a minute, I thought I was just going to learn about Google tools. What's up with the exam? You are not required to take this exam. It's just that I hope that we're going to cover most every, well, we can't cover everything, but all of the content that you might see on the exam will either be covered, or I'll give you resources that will help you study for that. You have to pass the exam with 80% or above. It's 180 minutes long, and yes, that is true. It is a long test. It costs $10. Some school districts have purchased vouchers, and your school district, that might be something they're interested in if they want to kind of elevate their teachers and get them certified. I just paid that $10 on my own, and it includes multiple choice, drag and drop, and performance-based scenarios. On this particular slide, there's a sample question document. Basically, there are some practice questions in the Google Training Center, and someone has just gathered all of them in a PDF. So that might be something that you could use as you're preparing. Your exam link is good for 7 days after purchase. So let me go ahead and tell you this. You may not be ready to take this test like Friday when we're done. You may want to give yourself some time to do some studying and preparation. You may want to social distance and gather a couple of friends and take it in the same room. You know, you have that opportunity to take it whenever you want. I actually studied for it and then just like took a whole lot of time before I actually did it. My problem is my first exam link expired. So I would advise you, like, don't register until you're prepared to take it, but don't register thinking you're going to take it 5 minutes after you register, because they will be sending you an email. Sometimes it takes 24 to 48 hours, although a lot of people I've worked with, it comes within an hour, but I can't guarantee that. You must have take the exam on a laptop with a camera. It can be a Chromebook. It does have to be on a Chrome browser. So you got to have the most up-to-date version of Chrome to take the exam, and you have to have an incognito window. You need to test this out because some districts have blocked the ability for teachers to open or students to open an incognito window. So it may be that you need to take it on a personal device that is not managed by your district, or if you're going to take it on a district device and you have trouble with that incognito window, then contact your tech department. And so this is what I refer to as the test slide, and I put as a big red banner at the top. Come back to the slide when you're ready to register for the test. And I've got a link here to click to create your account. So you have to create an account and then you register for the test. And I have a trainer code. It is a god-awful long number. I'm not sure why, but that is what Google has gifted me with. And so when it asks, did you use a trainer and what their code is, I would appreciate if you would put my code in there. And I do want to take a minute just to click on this and show you this. And Courtney will vouch for this. Google is going through a transition right now. Now, Courtney, did your last boot camp use the Web Assessor platform or ProctorU?
We use Web Assessor, but of course, moving forward, I'll be using ProctorU.
So it's just a different test platform, same stuff, just a different place to take the test. They've gone through some bumps in the road with ProctorU, but this is a national company that proctors exams at higher ed and everything. So basically you would create an account with ProctorU. And once you have done that, then you would go through the process of registering for the exam. And then I put this link down here. If your district does have a voucher, then they have a site where you can put your vouchers. Now, again, transitioning, this is the old voucher system, this is the new voucher system. So if your district is using a voucher for you to take the exam, you'll need to know when, and it'll be obvious by the number on the voucher. And I have in that yellow box, and I kind of took this from Courtney, don't worry about registering now. And we can schedule a face-to-face at a later date. Look, I don't know when we can officially be face-to-face again, but if it would make people feel better and you want to come up to JSU when we're ready to be open and take that test, you can. Like I said, it might be that you schedule a time with friends, or I'm a better test taker, like in my own bubble by myself. But I can be available to you to answer some questions if that would help. So this slide just has a lot of exam resources. So when you are ready for that exam, lots of links here. I do want to mention that there's a YouTube playlist with some resources. This is a really good one if you want to go through some videos on how to. and then some frequently asked questions about the quiz. The next slide there is talking about the Google Training Center. Now, again, transitioning, I'm going to click on this Google Training Center and show you something. This is the old Training Center site, which we have been using, and it's still functioning throughout the summer. But you'll see over here, it says go to the new site. So if I'm on this old site, I'm going to be going through this fundamental training, and that's what will, I'll have links to the different units that you can go through on that. But then over here, if you go to their new site, it's a little shinier, nicer. And over here under training courses, it's going to take you down. You're going to see the same thing, the basics. That's their fundamental course. So if you do start training, and it tells you it'll take about 12 hours, that's just going to depend. You will have to sign in to this teacher center as you go through. They just want to keep track of who all is taking their courses. Also on both of the training centers, you're going to see product guides. And so if you have additional questions about a particular thing like docs, then you can go there and you're going to see lots of videos helping you with each of these tasks. So I highly recommend that teacher training center, and there'll be several links to that training center as we go through our training. So course outline, a lot of the resources that I have are from other people because they have entire bootcamp type courses for folks to do online. And so these are the things you're going to see. Actually, where it says Google Plus, that one is not used anymore. And so as we go through this, you'll see some of the tools that have kind of taken the place of that. All right, so that's all the introductory stuff. And I'm thinking I need to probably set myself an alarm so that I know how I'm doing on everything. So we are at 9:25 right now. So I'm gonna give us a little 10:15 reminder, and then a reminder for 11, just to kind of give me help me pace myself. Any questions before I kind of get rolling on the content? All right, I'm gonna say that means we're all together. So this very first slide is just kind of talking about the SAMR model. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just talking about how people integrate technology. So what does this have to do with Google? You're gonna see a lot of questions on this exam dealing with integrating the tools. Why would you use the tools? Not just how do you use docs, but they're gonna give you a scenario on how you would use it in your class. And so this basically talks about the fact that we're really looking at substitution and augmentation in that level 1. And as you get a little higher into that modification and redefinition, you're in more of the level 2 world. And this is a really good video, and I would encourage you to watch it later. I'm not a big fan of trying to use videos during a Zoom session because sometimes it's just really hard to hear. But I am going to talk about these questions. Now, some of the questions you're going to see on the exam are not specifically Google tool related, but they are talking about digital citizenship, technology integration in the classroom. So some of these questions, you know, how can technology benefit teaching and learning? Why and how can it support the work you currently do? How can you use it to prepare for the future? So looking at those driving questions should help you when you're answering the questions on the exam. So think about, you know, how would I answer this? And that's going to help you prepare for those kinds of questions on the exam itself. So again, linking back to that teacher center, we're going to be going through some of the information you'll see in that fundamentals course. But each day I will have a slide that says homework. And no, you don't have to necessarily do that homework to survive the next day in our Zoom session. but I would recommend that you cover those units in the Teacher Center prior to taking the exam. So maybe you would want to do them in chunks. It's basically going to have information, practice questions, some videos that you can go through. So our first product we're going to look at is Google Drive. And I know many of you, second to Gmail, probably Google Drive is something that you're using every day, multiple times a day. And so throughout this, you're going to see these checklists, and these are straight from some of those courses that people have prepared regarding the Level 1 exam. And so I've kind of got my checklist here, and I'm going to go back and forth into my drive and talk about how to do each of these things. For some of you, this may be like, you know this with your eyes closed. For some of you, it may be new. So I want to go through this list as much as I can in Google Drive. And I would go ahead and apologize. I'm going to use my personal Gmail for a lot of things. And I like to refer to it as a hot mess. I can tell people how to organize my Google Drive, but I'm not a great organizer. So we're going to take a look into my Google Drive and see how to do some of these things. And I'm going to open up this slideshow over here in my iPad so I can make sure that I've got, that I'm going through each of these ideas. So there it is. All right. So I'm going to hit escape and go to my Google Drive. At least I think I am. There we go. All right, so in my Google Drive, I have lots of folders. We have our menu over here on the left. And let's see, let me get to this particular slide. And so very simply, the way you would create a file for a lot of people is going to be clicking New and File Upload. So if you have something you need to put in Google Drive, you simply go to that New button and click File Upload. This is also where you're going to upload entire folders or create folders, all going to be at that New button. Just to mention, because your drive may look different than mine, I really love the different view options that you have. So when you're looking at your drive, underneath your icon here, you can change from a list view, which looks like this, to a grid view. I prefer the grid view. Gives me, my folders are a little bit larger. And then as I get down into my files, when I go past my folders, it's going to show me kind of a thumbnail of those files. There we go. And I can kind of look at those files. So that I love about this view. And that's right up here. So to organize your files, you have several options, and that view button is going to be significant in your options. Right here in this grid view, I have the option to change the way my Google Drive is organized. I can do it by name, and so that way everything's alphabetized. I can do it as last modified. Now, if I have some shared folders, then last modified could be something that Courtney did in that folder. Last modified by me is the last changes I made, or last opened by me. So I can put things in that order, and notice here I can change that arrow to make it ascending or descending. Now, notice when I change the view here to that list view, it looks different. So here, if I'm going to make that change, name, you can click that all day long, it's not going to change. So here is where I would make the change. Notice that drop down arrow. Here is where I can change it from name to one of these other options, and I still have that arrow for ascending or descending. So I would definitely say when you're organizing things, this is going to help you find files and folders much easier. All right, so I already mentioned uploading files and folders. You just simply click that. Now, I'm on a Mac right now, But I can grab any of these documents or pictures, and I just simply click on them and open, and it's going to tell me I'm uploading that item, and it puts it into Drive. So once I have certain things in Drive, and I am going to leave it at list view. Once I have something in Drive, I don't necessarily have to open it to be able to make changes or to share that particular file. So my internet is a little slow on letting me access these files. Here we go. Told you I have a lot. All right. So here are some files that I have in my Google Drive. And so let's say that this particular presentation is something that I wanted to share. Now it's different when I right-click a folder versus right-clicking a file. But if I right-click that file, it opens up a lot of options. This is where I can share that file without ever opening it. So I can do share or even get a shareable link. So that link might be great to be able to share through email. If I choose the share button, then it's going to give me some options by adding people and groups here, or I can get the link. Now, when you're in a school domain, this box may look different. So if I click this change to anyone with the link, it's going to give me some different options. Now, I will tell you, this view right here that you're seeing has been, that's a pretty recent change, the way this looks, as opposed to even a month ago. This sharing window looked different. Maybe I'm just slow to the party on this, but this looks different. In a domain, you're probably going to see other options like anyone within, say, Pell City School District. And you will have, if your tech team has given you the option, you'll have some options to make it open and public to anyone, even outside your domain. But at some school districts, it's just going to be within their domain, and that's where you're going to make those changes, is right there with the Get Link option. Notice over here to the side, this is where I can dictate what kind of permissions I'm giving with that particular link, viewer, commenter, or editor. And keep in mind, editor gives them free reign to change everything in your document. Okay, so I can copy that link and do whatever I need to with it, or I can add people, like I could add Courtney here, and I can send her a message. I can make her editor, viewer, or commenter, and I can send. So that is on sharing a file. And notice the other options when I right click. I can preview, I can open with. Now I have lots of other apps connected here, but I could open that particular file with a number of apps that I have connected. So that one was a presentation. Look, when I right click this one, I have some other options of how to open that document. We've already looked at share. I can add a shortcut to Drive. If this is a shared document, I can move it to a particular folder without ever opening it. And for organization purposes, that can be really helpful. You can add to starred. Now, I like this feature. If I have certain documents that I'm going to be using pretty often, so like an attendance roster or something I'm going to document discipline on each day, I'm going to add it to starred, and it's going to show up over here on the left like a bookmark or a favorite. So I really like that feature. Other things, when you right click, you can rename it. So if you needed to rename it without opening it, you can. View details, which I think people don't use a lot. You can go to view details and you can look at it, see how large it is, see what type of file it is, when it was opened, created, and modified, and then even activity that happened within that document. So that is under details when you right click under view details. I can also make a copy, and I can't even see the other options there. So Let me go up a little higher. There we go. Download, remove, lots of things when you right click. Now, I want to mention that that is when you're dealing with files. Looks a little different if I'm dealing with a folder. Okay, so here is a folder, and I right click that. Similar options, okay, but I also have the option of changing color. I love this. This is very good for organization, particularly if you teach various subjects or you're going to keep things organized by color. So you could say all my reading folders are going to be red, all of my math folders are going to be yellow, and so I can change the color of that folder, and it changes it right there. I can also make this a shared folder, and I am going to share it with myself and send. And maybe, yeah. So once I've done that, that folder icon is going to have a little person there that will show that it is a shared folder. And everything I drop within that folder then is shared with all of those same people. All right, sharing a resource folder, deleting files and folders are the last things on my list. Basically, I have now shared that folder. I can go in and drop resources that I want to in there, lesson plans, handouts, quizzes, share that folder with my colleagues, and we can all access and make changes within that folder. And then obviously I can right click and I can delete things here as well, or I can, and by doing that, I can click here, right click, or I can click the trash can up at the top. Notice that there are other icons up here that allow us to do some of those same things. Get a shareable link, share with a particular person, or drop something into the trash can. And I always say in Google, anytime you see what I call the Shish-Kabob menu or the 3 dots, this is going to give you other options. So we're seeing a lot of those same options that as if I right clicked that folder. All right, so we are now going to do a task. And so this is an opportunity for you to practice what we just talked about. And Courtney came up with these. I think they're brilliant. These are our task norms. Stay focused and work quietly on the task at hand. Hey, you got your mics muted, so I'm sure you're going to be working quietly. Keep all your microphones and cameras off and be mindful of the time. So I'm going to have a timer up on the screen. If you have a question, send me a message in the chat box. And don't panic. If you struggle and you can't figure it out, we can come back to it later, or you can drop something in that question document. All right, so I am going to stop video on my end, and this is our task. So you're going to, you may have to manipulate the Zoom screen so that you can access your Google Drive, or if you've got another device, you can go into your Google Drive there and do this activity. So you're going to create a folder in Google Drive labeled Lesson Plan Repository. Change the color of the folder. Share the folder with me, and my email is there. And place a couple of random documents, things that aren't private, in your lesson plan folder. So it doesn't matter what they are. Now I'm going to go ahead and start this timer. All right. Hopefully you were able to get that done within that time, and had an opportunity for maybe a short restroom break. I will be checking to see what you did and what you shared with me as well. And I am sending out a quick tweet about our boot camp. So there we go. Done. All right. So moving on to the next part is Google Docs. I would say probably this is the most used tool by teachers for their own productivity and for their students. And so just a second, let me make sure that we can all see what we need to see. Let's see. I am struggling going between all of my screens, so hold on. There we go. So, and I think I've got my video off, yeah. So anyway, we're on to Google Docs, and we're gonna look at these basic tools. I have a video here that one of my colleagues made that gives you kind of an intro to Google Drive and to Google Docs. And so hopefully some of the videos in this will help you. And so let's see, and I'm trying to pull back up my, that's all right, I think I've got it. All right, so back to that list. We're going to go through these tasks. I'm just gonna open up Google Docs and go through these tasks for you. And hopefully you will be able to do these as well. So I'm just going to start with a new Google Doc. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can get to Google Docs. The way I used to recommend to people is to go to the name of the tool.google.com. So I could go to docs.google.com. I can go here and drive under new and choose Google Docs. The benefit to those two methods is that I can get to their template gallery. If you are interested in the template gallery, check that out. That's gonna be on the home page or here. The other option, a lot of people use what I call the waffle menu, and that is right over here. And you can find Google Docs somewhere in that. But then the other really cool way to start a new Google Docs is docs.new. And this is something that's a shortcut for all of the tools. And Courtney had a slide for this in her presentation, and I really feel like I should put it back into mine. It basically just shows you if you take the name of the tool, .new, and put it into Chrome browser, it will open up a brand new document. And that is just a time saver for those of you that are using documents all of the time. So I just went to docs.new and got to a blank document. So that's a quick and easy way to create your document. You are going to need to give it a name. So I'm going to go up here and call this Google Bootcamp Doc. And it's ready to go. Notice it's always saving. Once I named it, it gave me some options up here. I can star this, so automatically it goes into kind of my favorites in Google Drive. I can move it, so instead of it just being lost in the abyss, like many of my files are, it can be put immediately into a folder. And then see document status is going to tell you, is this published or not, and has everything been saved? I love that it tells me when my last edit was. And I just love the fact that Google saves everything all the time and I don't have to worry about saving. All right, so if I wanted to share this document and I was not in Google Drive where I could just right click it, I have several places I can do that. The old magic blue button up there at the top to share. And just like before, if you've learned to share one thing in Google, you can share them all. You can add a particular person's name, or you can get a link. Both of those give you the option of making that person editor, viewer, or commenter. All right, so the beauty of Google Docs, and this is what I've shown several of you, and if you're in my region and we've done any kind of Google training, is the fact that you can collaborate using Google Docs. And so once I share that and I make someone like Courtney an editor, then we can both type at the same time in real time. And that, I think, is the beauty of all of the Google tools. Is that you can be working on something and a colleague can be working on it at the same time, and students can do that as well. And when somebody is sharing a document, you're going to see all of their icons up here with you while you're collaborating on that document. And so if I share this with Courtney, I would see an icon up there that shows that she is also viewing the document and we're working together. Now, I, as an English teacher, love to feedback features with comments and suggested edits in docs. So as I'm going through and I'm typing in my document, there is a section over here that shows editing mode. I can also have suggesting mode. So if I'm an editor, I can edit the document directly, or I can suggest edits. So I can go in here and I can delete something, and notice that it is going to pop a bubble up there and show that I, as a collaborator, deleted something. And so I can choose to accept that suggestion or reject it. If I accept it, notice that suggested edit takes effect. And so that is here under editing, suggesting, or viewing. The other option is that if I highlight something, I can add a comment. You've got the comment bubble up there with a plus. You can also go to insert and insert a comment either way. You don't have to highlight anything, but I do like to encourage people to do the highlight so that that particular thing is highlighted and it goes with my comments. You know, check spelling. So now that comment is there. This feedback option is great as a teacher if you want to provide some comments, or if you and a colleague are working on something. And then up here at the top by the share button, notice that all of the comments show up. And I can see that history of those comments. This is interesting if you are dealing with a student and you've said, hey, check your spelling on this. A lot of times you will want them to like reply to that and say that it is resolved, and they have done that. Some students will just delete that comment and just think the teacher will never know that I did not fix that. Here you can go in and see the history of all of those comments. Now, if I wanted to make a comment to a specific person, I can do my comment bubble here, and I can do the @ symbol and put that person's email in there and assign that comment to them. You can use the @ symbol or the plus symbol. Each of those will allow you to assign a comment to someone. This is super helpful if you do have multiple people working on a document and you want that one person to specifically work on something. You can assign that comment to a specific user. And so all I did was I insert my comment bubble, and then I can use the @ symbol and it pulls up a list of my contacts, or I can do the plus, same thing. So once I choose someone, I can choose to assign that comment to, and that person usually gets a notification. All right. Next is adding links to comments. Back on this commenting feature, you can put any link that you want in here. So let's say that I wanted to put a link there for my students to go to that particular link. I love this from a grammar perspective. There are lots of grammar sites that have particular pages with rules. And so if I did see an issue, it'd almost be like a tier 2 instruction. I could add those links in there for the students to go to be able to correct their mistake. So you can add those hyperlinks into your comments. All right, so on, and I'm gonna just go in here and I'm going to grab another document. Let's see. This is one that I use sometimes when I'm training. I can find it. There we go. So I'm pulling up this document so that we can look at version history. So I have really worked with this document a lot. So just kind of ignore the content. But I want us to look at version history. Now, where you can find that in Google Docs is over here under File. And this is an invaluable tool. It's called version history. And so you have a couple of options when you go to version history. You can name this current version, or you can see the version history. So we're going to click on that. It's going to open this new window, and it's going to give you access to all of the edits made on this document. I want you to notice when this document was started, 2012. So this is how long I've been using Google with students. This was originally a student essay, or at least a draft of a student essay. And so that's when that first started. Notice he was burning the midnight oil at 4:51 a.m. when he created this particular essay. If I click on this, it is going to show you the original essay without any of the edits that have been made since 2012. This is such a cool feature. So you have some options here. First option, restore this version. So let's say that you had two students working on a document and one student went in and deleted all of the essay, and they're both freaking out. You can go in and restore it to the version before things were deleted. So that's one option. Remember though, if I do this, it sort of negates all those other edits that were made. So a better option might be down here under that particular version, there is the Shish-Kabob menu, which gives me the option to make a copy. Okay, I like this option because if I have a student who lost work, but other students have done work after the loss, then I can make a copy and send that student their work so that they can copy and paste it back into the document. This is a great use of this version history, is make a copy. The other option under name this version is a way for you to name it. Notice I named this one first 9 weeks. So let's say I had a document where I was tracking a student's behavior. I could name first 9 weeks. That would essentially be the snapshot from that date. And I can go in and name other versions with a name there. And another feature here is that you can zoom or you can print. So let's say that you did want to print a snapshot of a student's behavior or whatever you are documenting on that first 9 weeks date. You could print out a copy without restoring anything, but print out a copy of that and provide it to a parent or have that in a meeting and talk to a principal about it. So I do love these features in version history. And so as I go through, I can see the edits. Now here's another interesting thing. When I click on this, there is a little drop-down arrow that lets me see all of the minute details of the edit that happened. So here is another edit. Look how different that one is. When I click on that down arrow, I can see all of the different edits that were made to that particular essay. And so I think that that is super helpful to see all of those changes in version history. And so to get out of this, I'm just going to click the back arrow. It takes me back to my most recent version. Notice last edit before, because I haven't made any edits in this current document, was in 2019. So hopefully you have utilized that feature before, version history. It's very powerful. And so I'm going to ask Courtney if she doesn't mind, and I'm putting her on the spot here. On this Google Docs slide, I have at the bottom their citation tools to avoid plagiarism. Can you refresh my memory on where they would go for the citation tools?
Yes, so go to the top. You want the Explorer tool.
Okay.
So click on Tools, or yeah, you can get it from there too. And then whatever they're searching in that, like if you type in something in that search engine.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that they want one of those articles. As you hover over it, you'll notice the quotation marks appear. That's it.
Yeah. All right, that's what I thought. So the Explore tool is something that you are probably going to see a few questions on when it comes to the exam. So I'm going to close this out and just talk a little bit about the Explore tool. You can access it in a couple of places. If you go down here at the bottom, you'll notice it's this little, it looks kind of like a speech bubble, but it's got that star, that 4-point star in it. You can click and that will open that Explore window, but then you can also go up here to Tools and go to Explore. So either place will open that window. Notice when you're searching in your docs, in Drive, and the web. So if, and notice that depending on what is in your document, it may go ahead and make some assumptions of what you might want to search about. So this particular one, notice he had said something about his girlfriend. And so they've already put girlfriend as a possible topic. And so I'm going to put in tigers. I use that a lot just because that's the mascot of my kid's school. And so if I was going to use something from these web results, like this article right here, if you click on this little quotation mark there, it is going to add it as a footnote. So that is the citation tools that's referring to help you not plagiarize. This is a great tool as students are learning how to use resources on the internet and include them. When they are tempted to just copy and paste large blocks of text, we can encourage them to use these citation tools. And it also gives an opportunity to keep them honest, because as a teacher, I can click on this, go to where they got their information, and talk to them about summarizing versus directly quoting versus paraphrasing. All right, so I am going to jump down a little bit while I'm in this particular document. And I'm going to jump down on the next slide, which talks about, well, I can do it all in this document. That is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just do insert a table. So very simply, if you go here to insert, you can choose a table. However many columns and rows you want, you can dictate that right here. And once you click that, your table is there and you can add information to it. This is how I actually created that table of contents slide, was by using a table. You can insert an image. Now, if you have a table, you can actually insert an image in a table cell, which can make your document look super organized, or you can insert that image anywhere in the page. So simply insert image. Now, This is the benefit that I feel like Google Docs has over, say, a Word document, is that when I go to insert an image, I have several options. I can upload it from my computer. So that means just like in a Word document, I would have had to go out, find the image that I want, save it in a folder, click upload, find the image again, and put it into my document. I love the feature search the web. So if I was looking for an image of a tiger, all I would do is put tiger on there. And once I found something that I liked, I can either double click or I can click insert, and that picture is in my document. Now, and I noticed that my neighbor has started weed eating, so I may have to change the location. If that bothers you or if it gets too loud, just let me know. All right, so on this image, once I've inserted it, you have the option, once you click on it, you'll see those blue squares. You can like make that image smaller and make it fit into your document. One thing that I don't see people utilize enough are these alignment features right here. And right now it's in line with the text. Look, when I do wrap text, what happens? I can freeform move this picture wherever I want. And that makes a huge difference, especially if you're saving space. That is the wrap text feature. Or you can do break text, and it gives you an entire space for your picture. And like I said before, I can put that picture into my, oh, I have to choose wrap text. I can put that picture into my table if I want to, and wherever I put that, then I can adjust the table. So that's inserting and adjusting our images. Now, if I did want to crop that image, which is a little different than resizing that image, let's say that I wanted less of the background here, I can double click that image and it will have some black lines that will show up. And that allows me to then go really close into that image and then click off of it and notice it is cropped and not just resized. So Heather Hannah has a good question. Are those images pulled from a Creative Commons resource? Somebody else may be able to answer that, but I believe that the Google image search here does have certain filters on it for reuse. And the reason why I say that is because I have had students before search the web for something that is a trademark. Whoops, sorry. So for example, if they search for SpongeBob, a lot of times they're not going to get like the official cartoon image of SpongeBob. Notice that they are getting other people's pictures, pictures of toys. So that may be frustrating with students sometimes when they're looking for an image that is maybe a copyright image. So there you go. Joy, Leave the Librarian is helping me out there. It's the free to use or share search option. So that is awesome. Thank you for that answer. I did know that there were certain filters put on that search for the image. All right, adding a hyperlink. This is such an important feature in Docs. The ability to add a hyperlink. I noticed I skipped one thing on the list. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Adding a hyperlink is as simple as selecting your text that you want to link, and you can either right click or you can find this little chain link up in the toolbar. And now it's going to give you an option to add a hyperlink. Now notice, based on the text, Google will make some suggestions. Or it's going to look at this document. I can find other things. What I love about Google is I can start typing it in. So let's say I am looking for something to do with the beach. So this gives me a dictionary meaning of the beach, or notice that there are some documents in my drive that have to do with beach. Or I can directly put a link that I know is an actual link, either copied and pasted from somewhere. and I apply that link and it's there. Now, obviously, I could paste an entire hyperlink in my document and it would automatically be linked. But for this particular activity, Google likes for you to do a cleaner link, which is select your text and then choose that link tool. Now, the part that I skipped on there was creating a table of contents or a class syllabus. Essentially, a table of contents is great when you actually use a table. And here I can put in things like day 1, information, whoops. And for day 1, let's say that I want to link that day 1 to something in a presentation. So I can click that hyperlink and notice that I can look for more. So let's say that I put Bootcamp in there and it is going to search in my drive and there is the presentation that I want it linked to and apply. And now it's not just linked to something on the web, it's linked to a presentation. So, and when we get into Google Slides, you'll see that you can actually link it to specific slides within the slide deck, which is super. All right, now this is going to show that I'm a true English teacher, not a math teacher, but there is a great way to insert an equation. So this has been the big complaint. A lot of my math teacher friends say I don't really use the Google tools because it's hard to put math symbols in there. So they do have, and there are some add-ons as well, but they do have an equation tool for you to put in a math equation in there. And you can put certain symbols in there and it will maintain the integrity of that equation. So like I said, I just put in a simple one, but if I'm going to insert a more complicated equation, again, I don't want to look dumb, but here are all of these symbols and options that you have to create one of those awesome equations that I'm not even going to pretend how to do. So you have that equation editor. Once you're done, you can just hide that. So you can add a mathematical equation. Now, the next thing on there is insert a Google drawing. I have not used Google Draw a lot, but I have colleagues that swear by Google Drawings. And so I'm going to go to Insert Drawing. And notice that I can choose New, or if I have a Google Drawing that is in Drive, I can grab it from Drive. So I'm going to click New. And here it creates a canvas for a Google Drawing. Now, let's see if everybody is awake. So let me get someone in the chat box to tell me what is significant about this canvas with these little gingham or check marks. Like what does this mean when I see a background or a canvas that has this checkerboard look to it? Oh, I see somebody has put something in the chat. Let us see. Transparent, that is right. Good job. So the beauty of creating a drawing here is that I can have a transparent background. So I can choose any shape, pull that shape in there. There are tools to fill that shape, to add some text to that shape. And when I add any kind of text box, you know, I can manipulate that text box. I can go in here and all of the things that I am accustomed to doing in my Word documents are here. I can make this really big font. That's probably way too big. So I can put that and make this really cool button. And when I say save and close, there is my drawing in my document. So I have this option to make these customized buttons and drawings right within my document by doing insert and draw and choosing new. And notice now, this is a document, this is a button that I can't mess with the text in it. Once it's created there, I would go in and edit. I've got my 3 dots here if I need to make other changes to that image. And just like any image or text, I can hyperlink that. So not only can I hyperlink text in a document, I could hyperlink this button, and I could take my students out to the web somewhere or to a document that I want them to look at. And so I love that drawings feature. It's really cool. All right, the next feature is translate, and it's going to look kind of like a hot mess because this is kind of nonsense now. But if I am going to use the translate tool, I'm going to go up here to tools and choose translate document. This is super helpful if you have students, Hispanic students, students of other cultures and other languages. This allows you to create a parent document, and I'm not going to say that it is the most true translation, but it is pretty decent. And so I would choose the language that I want this to go to. So I am going to go to Italian. This should be fun. And choose translate. Notice it opens a brand new tab for my translated document. It's going to think a minute. As my husband and I say, it does have to go to space and back. So I have to remember and be patient. And so now it is going to take those words and translate them into Italian. And I promise you, I have no knowledge of Italian. I cannot guarantee that that is accurate. But considering we have many students that have, English as their second language, I think that that is very helpful. All right, page setup. This is another tool that I think is not utilized enough, and we're familiar with it if you're familiar. And I'm going to actually close out this document and just go to this blank one that I started. We're familiar with page setup. If you learned on Microsoft Word like I did, page setup is where you would go to make your big changes. And I actually am going to need to move this toolbar. There we go. So page setup under file is right down there at the bottom. This is where you set your margins. This is where you go from landscape to portrait. But I think this is a cool feature. Notice page color. I can change the background color of my document. Okay, so let's say that I want it to be kind of this light yellow tint or ivory tint. So now I've changed the entire background of my document. It adds some interest. It makes it feel more like a kind of like a web page rather than just a document. And all that is done under page setup. You can also change your paper size. So a lot of teachers do this if they're going in and they're making class books or they are doing something very specific. You can change that paper size here. And if you're doing margins and you need something with 1-inch margins, you can fix those here as well. All right. The last thing on there regarding Google Docs is talking about HyperDocs or multimedia text sets. I have an entire presentation on HyperDocs. If you're not familiar with those, a simple Google or look on Pinterest for HyperDocs will show you some really cool HyperDocs out there. I'm just going to do a quick search for HyperDocs. And I have a ton of HyperDocs, and here is an example of one. I did not make this one. But basically, a HyperDoc is using all of the tools that we've been talking about in Docs and using them in a very smart way to package your digital content. So notice they went into page setup, changed the color of the document to this blue color. They've used the hyperlinking feature to hyperlink several things in this document. There is a table, keeping it nice and organized, and then even put like some screenshots of these different things. And notice they've got activities. This is super creative. What I love about HyperDocs, just on a side note, is you can go and find many of these, and notice this is a copy of a copy. You can make a copy and then adapt it for what you need. And so just like I think teachers love Kahoot, because I can go into Kahoot's gallery and find one and not have to start from scratch. That is the beauty of HyperDocs, is that once you've learned these basics in Google Docs, you can do all of these really cool things that you see in HyperDocs, and sometimes in like your teachers pay teacher um, documents. All right, so we are on to our next task. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but this dude is really mowing his grass. I am dying. Okay, so we are looking at our next task, and this is in Google Docs. And it is a Google Docs scavenger hunt. Now, if I did this correctly, it will force you to make a copy, and then you will do your work within that Google Docs scavenger hunt. So I'm going to go ahead and cut on this timer, and I will mute my microphone so you don't have to listen to Lawnmower Man. I'm seeing that we have a couple of people that have some questions in the chat, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what is going on and how to help you. So when I click on that particular slide, it takes me to that Google scavenger hunt. Can somebody, Courtney maybe, or somebody tell me what it is that you guys are missing? We don't have that slide at all. Well, that is terrible.
Brandy, the slideshow that you shared with us is different than the slideshow that you've been showing on your screen.
Well, girl, y'all should have told me that. Okay, I apologize. Let me see if I can figure out what that problem is, and I will fix it.
Hey, Brandy, before you do that, in the meantime, take that URL that you're viewing and put it in the chat so that they can copy and paste it and work on it. And then you can figure out the presentation while they're working.
Smart lady. There we go. Now you can be working on that task, and I will fix my problem. Now I'm going to I'm going to stop sharing and work on that.
And yes, Vincent, you're right. You will have to actually highlight that link, copy it, and then paste it into your browser. You cannot click it straight from Zoom.
think this guy's kicking up some dust. Mm. All right, I didn't have time to shorten that presentation link, but that should be the correct one. And I apologize because I had done a previous boot camp and I made all my changes last night and I thought that it was the same link. Obviously, I was wrong. Ah.
Hey, the link that you just gave them, Brandy.
Yeah.
Go in and change your sharing access. You said.
Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Try again. Thank you.
Okay, that worked.
All right. I am so sorry. Look, y'all are such good students. You should always correct the teacher if she is clueless and y'all are like, this is not the same presentation. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. And Lawnmower Man and I are about to fight. That's all I'm saying. All right, share screen. We have about 5 minutes left in this timer. Now, some of you may be gurus and already finished, and some of you may be totally confused since I didn't share the right presentation or the right link. So hopefully, if nothing else, you've used the chat box to kind of catch up and figure out where we are and what's going on. And you can work on this later if you do not complete it. I'm going to let that timer finish. And if you need to take a little break, get another cup of coffee, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do that. And then we will cover another tool before we wrap things up. So I put in the chat box. I do appreciate you guys being so patient. You're my guinea pigs. And since I feel like we have enough time to cover one other short tool, I think this is a great time to look at another tool called Google Keep. Now, what this means is on the fly, on another device, I shifted this slide. So you may need to hit the refresh button on your presentation and you can find this Google Keep slide as slide number 28 right now. So if you don't refresh, then you're going to see the homework day 1 slide. If you refresh, you'll see this Google Keep slide. It was previously like in day 4 or 5. So if you don't have time or can't figure out how to do all that, just hang with us on this slide. And you should not have to actually have this slide. So Google Keep is one of my favorite tools. It is a great way to manage to-do lists. One thing that you will notice, and I'm just going to go back to my Google Drive, you may have noticed that over on the right side, in many of your Google tools, you're seeing these little mini icons. The first one is a calendar. It's going to load up what you have going on for the day right there next to Google Drive or Gmail or whatever tool you are in. That's super handy. The next icon you're going to see down is Google Keep. This is going to pull any of your to-do lists that you have created. It allows you to create one right here in Drive or whatever tool you're using. And the beauty of it is it allows you to give it a header. So I'm going to call this Bootcamp Stuff. And I can go ahead and say, change permissions on slideshow, which I did not do. So there we go. And now that note is down in my list of notes. There it is. So Google Keep is very handy, and it is alongside many of your tools that you're using. In Google Slides, there it is. In my docs, it's there as well. So I love that about Google Keep. Now, just like I said before, you can access the full version of the tools when you go to the name of the tool.google.com. So not only can you access Keep right here next to whatever you're using, but you can go to keep.google.com and access kind of your personal bulletin board of notes. This also gives you access to all of the features in Google Keep. So let me see a show of hands if you are currently using Google Keep for anything. So if you want to give me a hand raise or an applause or something, I am a huge fan of that, but a lot of people have really never used it. So in Google Keep, if you go to the full website, then you can go here and over here on the left, what I call the hamburger menu, that opens up this left menu, which allows me to see all of my notes, certain reminders, and then labels. And you'll note that Google uses a lot of labels in their folder system, and they are consistently using labels here. And what that does is it allows you to create a note with a label. So if you'll notice some of my notes, I have a label called personal, and I can go down further and I have labels, look, ATEM, Powerschool. So I have lots of different labels. If I click on that label, it pulls up just the notes that are in that particular label. So I love that. Feature is the ability to add labels. And if I click on notes, it just pulls up all of my notes. Okay, so other options when I'm in this full version is if I click right there where it says take a note, I can add level 1 tools. And I can start adding some of the level 1 tools. So I'm going to say Drive, Docs, Gmail, Keep, and I could keep listing them. And some of the really cool features in Google Keep that I'm a fan of are these tools down here at the bottom. You don't really have access to a lot of these when you're just using the feature out to the side of, say, your Drive or your Gmail. So I really love, if I click on the 3 dots, I love the checkbox feature, show checkboxes. Boom. Maybe that's because I love checking off a list. It just makes me feel like I've accomplished something. So I really do love that checkbox feature. And it is something that's super handy when you are making lists. Another thing I want to point out is that if I click on an item in there, notice these dots. I call these handlebars. You're going to see these a lot in Google Tools. When I see the handlebars, it allows me to drag the order of the items in Google Keep. So I love that feature too. It allows me to kind of prioritize my list. If I check off something, it puts it down here under completed. So now I get the satisfaction of seeing things that I have completed. Some of the other features in that 3-dot part there is adding a label. So here I can either create a new label or I can use labels that I already have created. So I'm going to call this one, see, I have one for Google Level 2 already. I'm just going to call this one an ATM note. Okay, so it's got that ATM label. I can add a drawing. So here I can access Google Drawing and add a drawing to this. I can make a copy of this note. So if I make this checklist and I want to make multiple copies, I can uncheck all the items. So let's say this is a list of things that I'm going to do on a daily basis. I can quickly uncheck all of these items and be able to reuse that note again. Delete the checked items, hide the checkboxes, or copy to Google Docs. This is another feature that makes this really unique, is that I add information to keep and I can just dump it right into a Google document. So those are some cool features. Some other features, let me get back to that note. Down here at the bottom, archive. This is going to send it away to the abyss, so don't mess with that one. Add an image. So this is what's really nice, is that I can add an image to this note. Once it loads up, it is a part of my note. So I've got the image up there at the top. I'm going to get rid of that image, but I will show you a creative way one of my colleagues used images with these notes. I can change the color, and because I'm very visual, I definitely use these colors a lot. So along with labels, I tend to also use things, colors, like the red color for work, the yellow color for grocery and personal items, so you can do the colors. This might be my favorite feature. Not only can you make these notes, but you can add people as collaborators on these notes. So I teach this all the time. This is totally not school related, but I'm going to close. I hate grocery shopping. So let me just show you how nerdy I am. So we have 372 completed items on our grocery list. What I love though is that there are some items we use all the time. And so I can go and uncheck those items and it populates our grocery list. At the bottom of my grocery list here, you can see, it's really long, I have some collaborators. My 20-year-old son, my husband, and my 13-year-old son, who recently got a Google account, all have this grocery list shared. So when mom says, I'm going to Walmart in 15 minutes, they can add back their favorite things to the Walmart list. I'm a super nerd. I've used it for Christmas lists for the kids. I've used it for my son when he graduated high school. Anytime someone got him a gift, he put it there, and as he did a thank you note, he checked it off. So super nerdy, but this is one thing that you can do. And notice that I have these up at the top that aren't moving, and this one that I just created is down here toward the bottom. I have these pinned. So notice when I click on this note, I can choose this thumbtack, and it pins that note or unpins that note to the top of my list of keep notes. So I really do love Google Keep. I'm kind of obsessed with it. You can add a title, you can take notes. The one other thing down there is reminders. And so if you have a note, you can actually add some reminders, just like you have other reminders in Calendar and Gmail that will remind you of a certain event. So I'm going to scroll down and just show you an example. Brooke VZ put this really cool header that she created at the top of this note. And for this particular note, when we were going through Powerschool training, all of the TIM specialists shared this note. And as we were in the meeting, we added hyperlinks to the note, and we all collaborated on those notes. So you can see I'm kind of obsessed with Google Keep, and I thought it might be a good opportunity to show you that tool if you're not using it, because it is so convenient. Now, before I just go nutso on my Google Keep stuff, I do want to show you a feature that may not be on the test, but is one that a lot of teachers are using. And that is going to be the Google Keep extension. And so I have the Google Keep Chrome extension in all of my extensions, and I have quite a few of these extensions, but I'm looking to see where that one is. It looks like it is alive. It is there. And so, not seeing it though. Oh, extension error, boo on that. Well, oh, there it is. My bad. It's right there at the top. It is a normally a yellow light bulb. If that particular extension is on something that you can't collect, like the Google Keep site, it's black. But when it is available, it's yellow. So here's what I mean. Chrome extensions are these fabulous little buttons that you can add at the top of your browser. This one is the Google Keep extension. And so what I love about it is that I can go to a website and I can share that website through my Google Keep. So if I click on Google Keep, it turns from black to yellow. It automatically grabs that link. And when I click on the note, I can say, great resources. And I can take notes on the site. Look here for info to use in project. I can label it right here. I can add multiple labels as well. Notice it automatically saved. I can click off of it. I can go back to it and add more information as I'm on that website. And now it automatically puts that note in Google Keep and makes it accessible to me. So I really like that feature. And then back to using Google Docs, which is one of the tools we focused on today. If I go over here to my Google Keep area, and I've got this note that I just added this link in, there's the 3-dot menu that allows me to add this information to my document. Okay, so now, and I forgot I'm still suggesting, let's change it to editing. Now I have dumped the links from that particular document from that Keep note into my document. So it makes it really handy that you can access those notes right there, and you can put them into your document straight from your Keep notes. So I think that's a really handy feature of Google Keep. And I mentioned before that Brooke used that really cool header and put it in the top of our collaborative notes. And so there's a link here that takes you to some headers that have been created that you can save as a picture and add to the top of your Google Keep notes, which is super cool. And then there's a link there to Casey Bell and her information on Google Keep. So I just really felt like we had the time for me to briefly cover Google Keep as an additional tool. So I will kind of take that one off the end of the presentation and add that to what we've covered. So on slide 29, this is homework for day 1. Now I'm going to tell you this is not some homework that I can check. This is homework for your benefit as you're preparing for the exam. Now I mentioned before, when you click on this Google Teacher Training Center and you go to it, this is the old training center. It is the same content as the new training center. So don't let that stress you out, but you will have to sign in. And notice that as you go through sections of the fundamental training, it will give you a check mark. And for those of you that like to see completion, you have these little dots and it shows you as you've completed the different sections of this fundamentals course. And so you can go through and notice it says Unit 1, Unit 2. So I put on here, go through Unit 1 and Unit 2. So if you're like me and while it's on your mind, you kind of like to go through that part, you can. If you'd feel better waiting till closer to when you're going to take the exam to go through that, you can do that as well. But these units are not necessarily going to be specific to Drive and Docs that we talked about. It's more addressing some of the things that you're going to see on the exam itself. On each of our homework slides throughout the presentation, I have a link here, or you can use the QR code. I have a site called Book Me, which allows you to book some time with me outside of this boot camp. Now, granted, if all 20 people needed private time with me, I wouldn't be able to fit it all in. But if you got a little lost today and you have some specific questions that you don't think you can put into our question document, then you can book some time with me. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. It's just going to have this calendar here. And so you would click a time slot. Right now, I only have 12 and 1 as my open time slots. If I feel like these are filling up, I can add a 2 and a 3 time slot as well. But this would allow you to book time with me. It will send me an email, and it will allow me to meet with you. I can send a Zoom link or a Google Meet link, and we can meet. But back up here to the original slide number 8, this is going to take you to a form that allows you to ask questions. And so it's just going to say, what topic is the question about? What is your question? Some of you may have already put, where the heck is the slideshow? Since I didn't do a very good job with sharing the slideshow. But anyway, hopefully this has not been too overwhelming. It's very basic stuff these first couple of days. Much of this might be what you already know, but I just want to make sure I'm hitting the topics that we definitely have seen on the exam before. And a bonus there with the Google Keep information. And so we bumped that up. And so hopefully that means that I'm making a pretty good pace. Any other questions? I'm going to be wrapping up here at 11 o'clock today. So if you've thought of something that you think can be answered really quickly, we'll go ahead and answer. If not, you can leave the meeting, head out, enjoy your day, and we'll meet back here first thing tomorrow morning. Same Zoom link should take you here. Thank you again, Courtney, for saving me and helping me out today.
You were awesome.
I love friends like that say I'm awesome. Everybody needs those friends. All right, I'm going to end the meeting then. Thank y'all so much, and I will see you tomorrow.